Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun!
The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the empty bedroom. Faded floral wallpaper peeled at the corners, revealing hints of previous patterns underneath, layers of memories built up over the years. A gentle breeze stirred the lace curtains, carrying with it the scent of freshly cut grass and lilacs in bloom. Ryan stood motionless in the doorway, his hand gripping the worn brass doorknob. His eyes scanned the room, taking in every detail as if seeing it for the first time. The vanity, with its oval mirror, still cluttered with an array of colorful makeup palettes and brushes. The closet door left slightly ajar, a vibrant splash of fabric peeking out from within. Arabella's room, his sister's sanctuary. It had been 3 months since the accident. 3 months of tiptoeing past this closed door, of muffled sobs echoing through the walls at night. 3 months of a gaping void where laughter and sisterly teasing should have been. Ryan's feet carried him across the threshold before he fully realized he was moving. The soft carpet beneath his bare feet felt foreign after so long. He paused at the foot of the neatly made bed, fingers trailing over the patchwork quilt. "I miss you, Bella," he whispered, the words catching in his throat. His gaze drifted to the vanity, drawn by the sparkle of light on glass perfume bottles. Without conscious thought, he found himself seated on the small padded stool. His reflection stared back at him from the mirror, red-rimmed eyes, unkempt hair, a face etched with grief. Ryan's hand hovered over the collection of cosmetics before selecting a tube of deep red lipstick, Arabella's favorite. He uncapped it, the familiar scent bringing a flood of memories. Movie nights spent giggling as they experimented with makeup looks. Arabella patiently teaching him how to apply eyeliner for a Halloween costume. The cool touch of the lipstick against his lips sent a shiver down his spine. He traced the shape carefully, remembering his sister's instructions. When he lowered his hand and looked in the mirror, his breath caught. For just a moment, he saw a flash of Arabella looking back at him. "There you are," Ryan murmured, a bittersweet smile tugging at his newly reddened lips. He reached for an eyeshadow palette next, fingers ghosting over the array of shimmering colors. Arabella had always favored bold, dramatic looks. Ryan selected a deep purple, applying it with hesitant strokes. Each sweep of the brush felt like an act of remembrance, a tribute to the sister who had always shone so brightly. As he worked, a sense of calm settled over him. The ache in his chest eased ever so slightly. For the first time in months, Ryan felt a flicker of something other than crushing despair. "I think I'm getting better at this, Bells," he said softly, examining his handiwork in the mirror. The makeup was far from perfect, but there was something comforting in the ritual of application. Ryan's gaze drifted to the closet. He stood, drawn by the allure of vibrant fabric. His fingers trembled as he pushed the door fully open, revealing Arabella's extensive wardrobe. Dresses, skirts, and blouses in a rainbow of hues filled the space. He reached out, running his hand over the soft material of a flowing sundress. It was one of Arabella's favorites, a delicate floral print in shades of pink and yellow. Ryan could almost hear her voice, gushing about how it made her feel like stepping into a garden. Before he could second-guess himself, Ryan slipped the dress off its hanger. The lightweight fabric whispered against his skin as he pulled it over his head. It settled around him, a little snug in places, but not uncomfortably so. He smoothed his hands down the skirt, marveling at the way it swished around his legs. Turning back to the mirror, Ryan's breath caught in his throat. The person staring back at him was a curious blend of himself and Arabella. His sister's dress and makeup combined with his own features created an image that was both familiar and utterly new. Is this okay? Ryan asked the empty room, his voice barely above a whisper. Am I keeping you with me this way? There was no answer, of course, but as he twirled, watching the skirt billow out around him, Ryan felt a spark of something he hadn't experienced in months. Joy. It was small, fragile, but undeniably present. He sank back onto the vanity stool, smoothing the dress over his knees. His fingers found a hairbrush, and he began to work it through his shaggy locks. As he did so, words spilled from him, filling the silence of the room. I don't know if I'm doing this right, Bella, but it feels good. Like you're here with me.
Somehow.
Ryan paused, swallowing hard against the lump in his throat.
I miss talking to you, seeing your smile, hell, even arguing with you over who got to use the bathroom first in the morning.
He set the brush down, meeting his own gaze in the mirror. Maybe this is a way I can keep part of you alive. Not just the memory of you, but the spirit of who you were. Your confidence, your creativity. Ryan's hand drifted to a small jewelry box on the vanity. He opened it carefully, revealing a collection of sparkling accessories. After a moment's hesitation, he selected a pair of dangly earrings, costume jewelry with fake diamonds that caught the light. As he fumbled with the clasp, Ryan found himself speaking again.
Remember when you got your ears pierced for your 13th birthday? Mom was so worried about infection, but you were determined.
A soft chuckle escaped him.
You strutted around for weeks showing them off to everyone.
The earrings in place, Ryan tilted his head, watching them sway gently. The weight felt strange, but not unpleasant. He reached for a necklace next, a delicate chain with a heart-shaped pendant.
This was from your first boyfriend, wasn't it?
Ryan mused as he fastened it around his neck.
What was his name? Jason?
No, Josh. You were so excited when he gave it to you. His smile faded slightly.
And then so heartbroken when he dumped you a month later. I wanted to punch him for making you cry.
As he continued to adorn himself with Arabella's jewelry, Ryan found the words flowing more easily. It was as if each piece unlocked another memory, another story to share. Oh God, Bella. Remember that time we snuck out to that concert? I was so sure we were going to get caught. Ryan laughed, the sound startling in its genuineness.
But you had it all planned out. The way you sweet-talked that security guard into letting us backstage was legendary.
He stood once more, moving to examine his full reflection in the full-length mirror on the closet door. The person looking back at him was a curious blend of Ryan and Arabella. His sister's dress hung a bit loosely in places. The makeup was slightly smudged, but there was something undeniably right about the image.
Arabella,
Ryan whispered, testing the name on his lips. It felt strange, yet oddly fitting. Is it okay if I use your name sometimes, when I'm like this? The silence that followed wasn't oppressive. Instead, it felt almost like a gentle embrace, an unspoken permission. Ryan, Arabella, smoothed down the front of the dress, a small smile playing at the edges of painted lips. I think you'd like this, Bells. You always did say I needed to express myself more. With careful steps, mindful of the unfamiliar sensation of the dress swishing around bare legs, Arabella moved back to the vanity. She, and it felt right to use that pronoun in this moment, picked up a bottle of Arabella's favorite perfume. The scent of jasmine and vanilla filled the air as she applied it to her wrists and neck. I remember when you got this for Christmas last year, Arabella murmured, inhaling deeply. You wore it everywhere for weeks, even to soccer practice, which was a mistake. A soft laugh escaped her. Coach made you run extra laps because the smell was distracting the team. As she set the perfume bottle down, Arabella's gaze fell on a stack of fashion magazines piled haphazardly on the corner of the vanity. She picked up the top one, flipping through the glossy pages with a growing sense of curiosity.
You were always trying to recreate these looks,
she mused, pausing on a spread featuring bold, colorful eye makeup.
I never understood how you had the patience for it. But now...
Arabella turned back to the mirror, studying her reflection with a critical eye. The makeup she had applied earlier suddenly seemed amateurish compared to the artistic creations in the magazine.
Well, I've got time to practice, don't I?
She said, reaching for the eyeshadow palette once more.
And you always said I was a quick learner.
As she began to experiment with different shades and techniques, Arabella found herself slipping into a state of focused concentration. The world outside the bedroom faded away, leaving only the task at hand and the comforting presence of Arabella's memories. Time passed unnoticed as she worked, carefully blending colors and adjusting lines. When she finally sat back to assess the results, Arabella was surprised to find that several hours had slipped by. The room was now bathed in the warm glow of sunset, casting everything in a soft, dreamlike light.
"What do you think, Bells?"
Arabella asked, turning her head to examine her handiwork from different angles. The eye makeup was far from perfect, but it was a marked improvement from her earlier attempt. Bold sweeps of purple and gold highlighted her eyes, making them appear larger and more expressive. A sense of accomplishment washed over her, followed quickly by a pang of bittersweet longing.
"I wish you were here to see this, to laugh at how ridiculous I probably look, or to give me pointers."
Arabella's gaze drifted to the bedroom door, still firmly closed. Beyond it lay the rest of the house and the reality of a world without her sister. For a moment, fear gripped her heart. What would their parents think if they saw her like this? Would they understand, or would it only add to their grief? "I'm not ready," she whispered, more to herself than to the memory of her sister. "Not yet. This is just for us right now. Okay, Bells?" The silence that followed felt like an agreement, a shared secret between siblings. Arabella nodded, feeling some of the tension ease from her shoulders. She stood, smoothing down the sundress once more. Her bare feet sank into the plush carpet as she began to move, swaying gently to music only she could hear. It was a song Arabella had loved, one they had danced to countless times in this very room. As she twirled, the skirt of the dress billowing out around her, Arabella felt a bubble of laughter rise in her chest. It spilled out, filling the room with a sound that had been absent for far too long.
"Oh God, Bells," she gasped between giggles. "I must look absolutely ridiculous right now. You'd be howling with laughter if you could see me."
But even as she said it, Arabella knew it wasn't entirely true. Yes, her sister would have found humor in the situation, but it would have been the warm, inclusive kind of laughter that invited others to join in, rather than feeling mocked. "You always did encourage me to let loose more often," Arabella mused, continuing her impromptu dance around the room. "Remember that time you convinced me to enter the talent show with you? I was terrified, but you just grabbed my hand and pulled me on stage." The memory was vivid. The bright lights, the sea of faces in the audience, the pounding of her heart. But most of all, she remembered the warmth of her sister's hand in hers, the encouraging squeeze just before the music started.
"We were awful,"
Arabella laughed, shaking her head at the recollection. "Completely out of sync and off-key. But you just kept grinning and dancing like we were the stars of the show." She paused in front of the mirror, slightly out of breath from her exertions. The makeup was a bit smudged now, and wisps of hair had escaped to frame her face. but the reflection looking back at her seemed more alive than it had in months. "Is this what you felt like, Bells?" Arabella asked softly, reaching out to touch the cool surface of the mirror. "This sense of freedom? Like you could be anyone, do anything." She turned away from the mirror, her gaze sweeping across the room. It was full of Arabella's things, posters of favorite bands, shelves lined with books and knickknacks, a corkboard covered in photos and ticket stubs. Each item held a story, a piece of the vibrant life her sister had lived. "I think I understand now," Arabella murmured, running her fingers along the spines of a row of novels. "Why you loved all of this so much. It's not just about the clothes or the makeup. It's about expression, about showing the world who you are inside." She pulled out a book at random, a well-worn copy of a fantasy novel they had both loved. Arabella settled onto the bed, tucking her legs underneath her as she opened to a dog-eared page. "Remember how we used to take turns reading this out loud?" she asked, a fond smile playing at her lips. "You always did the best voices for the characters." Arabella began to read, her voice soft at first, but growing stronger as she fell into the familiar rhythm of the story. As she read, she found herself adopting different tones for each character, just as her sister had done. It felt like a connection, a way of keeping Arabella's spirit alive through shared memories and experiences. Time seemed to lose meaning as Arabella lost herself in the story. The fading light of day gave way to the soft glow of the bedside lamp. Outside, crickets began their nightly chorus, a soothing backdrop to the words on the page. It wasn't until she reached the end of a chapter that Arabella finally looked up, blinking in surprise at how much time had passed. Her throat felt dry from reading aloud for so long, and she realized with a start that she was hungry. "I should probably think about changing back," she said reluctantly, marking her place in the book. "Mom and Dad will be wondering where I am." The thought of removing the dress and makeup, of stepping back into her usual identity, filled Arabella with a mix of emotions. There was anxiety, certainly, fear of being discovered, of not knowing how to explain this to anyone. But there was also a sense of loss, as if she was saying goodbye to her sister all over again. "This isn't the end, though," Arabella assured herself, standing and smoothing down the skirt of the dress one last time. "I'll come back. This helps. In a way I didn't expect." She moved to the vanity, studying her reflection. The makeup was smudged, the hair mussed, but there was a light in her eyes that had been missing for months. Carefully, reverently, Arabella began to remove the jewelry, placing each piece back in its proper place. "Thank you, Bells," she whispered as she unclasped the necklace. "For everything. For being you, and for helping me find a part of myself I didn't know was there." As she began to wipe away the makeup, Arabella found herself making mental notes. Things to practice, techniques to research. It wasn't just about recreating her sister's look. It was about finding her own style, her own way of expressing this newly discovered part of herself. "I think this is something I need to explore more," she mused, watching as the bold eyeshadow disappeared under the makeup remover. "Not just as a way to remember you, but, for me, to understand myself better." The face that emerged from beneath the cosmetics was familiar. Ryan's features, with their shared family resemblance to Arabella. But there was something different in the eyes now, a spark of curiosity, of possibility. Arabella stood, reaching behind to unzip the dress. As she slipped it off, she treated the garment with utmost care, smoothing out wrinkles before hanging it back in its place in the closet. "I'll take good care of your things, Bells," she promised, running her hand over the other dresses and outfits. They're a part of both of us now, I think. As she pulled on her own clothes, comfortable, familiar, but now feeling somewhat confining, Arabella's mind was already racing with thoughts and plans. There was so much to learn, so much to explore. It was exciting and terrifying in equal measure. I don't know where this journey will take me, she said, casting one last look around the room. But I think you'd be proud. You always did say I needed to break out of my shell more often. With a deep breath, Arabella, now outwardly Ryan once more, opened the bedroom door. The hallway beyond seemed different somehow, as if the world had shifted slightly on its axis. But it was a good change, full of potential and possibility.
I'll be back soon,
Ryan whispered, glancing over his shoulder at the room that had become a sanctuary of self-discovery.
There's still so much of you to keep alive, so much of me to uncover.
As he closed the door behind him, Ryan felt a weight lift from his shoulders. The grief was still there, a constant ache in his heart. But alongside it now was something new, a sense of purpose, of connection, a way to honor his sister's memory while also embracing a part of himself he had never fully acknowledged.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!